mentor, and network to help your business grow both in size and through the latest innovations. Thanks to our soy experts, who are deeply connected to the regions where we work, we offer you face-to-face education and technical expertise. Working in developing and emerging markets, we identify market sectors with real potential for growth, work with key stakeholders, and provide effective trade solutions. While serving as an incubator, we connect driven leaders with supply chain partners. We help you network for strategic partnerships and create opportunities to launch a new product or service. And our go-to market strategists offer a localized approach, the right resources, the right expertise, and the right systems for better nutrition and improved food security in your market. At Wish, our greatest strength is our ability to facilitate strategic partnerships throughout the world to promote the benefits of soy. Wish and the American Soybean Association have the vision and the voice to continue to build awareness, create partnerships, and drive change for a healthier world.
Okay.
Located at the center of the world, Ghana is the best investment destination in West Africa and ranks as West Africa's first in the Ease of Doing Business Report 2019. It was projected as one of the fastest growing economies in the world, with a growth rate of 6.8% in 2019, and has been declared as Africa's new bright spot after being ranked 4th in the world and 1st in Africa in the 2019 Global Retail Development Index. As the host of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Ghana is creating the linkages that will make it the gateway to Africa, aided by dynamic policies, a stable political environment, and strong economic fundamentals. It is a land of opportunities, offering businesses across many sectors the potential to flourish. The country is open and accessible to investors and the private sector, providing a peaceful environment and upholding the rule of law. The government of Ghana is confident and optimistic about the positive results in its investment drive through the GIPC. Ghana has 8 million hectares of arable land, well irrigated by a wide network of water bodies, making it a region ready for large-scale mechanized agriculture. The government and major policy planners recognize that expanding the agro-industrial base is the best path to develop. Ghana has put in place the right legal and regulatory framework to increase foreign direct investment. The Industrial Zones Program allows manufacturers and agro-processors to take advantage of favorable tax and duty incentives to produce for exports from Ghana into the EU and US markets. A rich cultural history and wonderful natural beauty makes Ghana a great tourist destination. The Year of Return Tourism and Marketing campaign in 2019 positioned Ghana as a key travel and investment destination for African Americans and people of the global diaspora. The year recorded significant increases in the number of visitors to Ghana. Ghana's growing consumer market is providing compelling reasons for investing in the services sector. The retail sector has been valued at $24.4 billion. A growing middle class with increasing purchasing power is creating demand for a wider variety of sophisticated services in healthcare, finance, and education. In the region, Ghana has one of the highest mobile penetration rates at 140%, with data penetration at 89%. The country has a thriving startup scene, helped by access to broadband internet that runs on fiber optic and 4G networks. The fintech industry is worth over $50 billion. Ghana is an English-speaking nation located in the center of the geographical world, with flight times from Europe or America averaging about 8 hours. Transportation networks in and out of the country have received enhancements in order to aid the ease of doing business. It has a new international airport terminal and an expanded port infrastructure. Tema Port is one of the largest in Africa, with a capacity to handle 3.5 million TEUs. The expansion in the economy is largely due to oil and gas development. Other sustainable sources of power, like solar, wind and thermal, will significantly increase the country's energy resources. We invite you to share in Ghana's optimism. Be part of the incredible...
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay.
Yes, Dr. Mposa, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My earpiece was giving me some problems, but I think I'm okay now. Okay, so good afternoon. I'm sorry for internet and all. I'm sure it's going to work out fine as we begin the program. Today's program, as we all know, is part of the first hybrid aquaculture conference in West Africa, with the theme of new strategies to promote inclusion and transparency in aquaculture management in West Africa. And for this online session, we want to look at other options quality and environmental percent. And today we are honored to have two wonderful resource persons who will be presenting. In fact, what we plan to do is to play their presentations. I know one of them will be presenting live. It's my singular honor to actually introduce them. I will introduce them shortly as we begin. My name is Engineer Dr. Shadrach Kwejwamponsa. I'm a research scientist and also the CEO of One Testy Ventures, a business startup in Ghana that specializes in the construction of recirculating aquaculture systems and also provision of general aquaculture services. We are based in Kumasi at the Crop Research Institute premise. And I think going forward, maybe we can talk more on that. Okay, so at this juncture, I believe our speakers are already around. Can I hear from them if they are here?
Yes. And this is Regina. I'm here.
Wonderful. All right. Dr. Regina, thank you very much. Is Prof also here? Prof Adioson Festus Idowu, I believe. I've said it right. If Prof is here, I would want to just introduce the two speakers so we can start the program. Dr. Regina Ejiye, I hope I've got it right, is currently a senior lecturer in the Department of Fisheries and Watershed Management, KNUST Kumasi. Her research interests include water quality and plankton ecology in aquaculture systems, wastewater management, aquatic toxicology, aquatic ecology, culture of new aquaculture species, and environmental education. Dr. Regina holds a BSc in Natural Resources Management, that's fisheries from KNUST, Kumasi, an MSc in Aquaculture of Fisheries from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, US, an MSc in Applied Geography, Water Resources, and a PhD in Environmental Sciences from the University of North Texas, USA. She has been part of several projects in Ghana and US, and seeking to understand water quality dynamics in aquaculture production systems and aquatic toxicants in natural water bodies and wastewater systems. I believe that in her capacity, based on the topic under review today, I believe she will be a very good resource person to our discussion. So I am singularly honored once again to introduce Dr. Regina Ediye for this session. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Right. So I'll also want to go ahead and introduce Prof. Adioson Festus Aidowu. He is currently the director for the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Nigeria. Prof. Adioson Festus Aidowu was born in 28th May 1968 to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Adioson Samuel Olufemi in Abeokuta South local government area of Ogun State in Nigeria. Prof. Adioson attended St. Luke Primary School from between 1974 to 1979 and Lisabi Grammar School between 1982 to 1986. So also he attended Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta from 1988 to 1992. A lecturer, researcher, and a professor at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria, West Africa. He is also, like I said earlier, the director for the Institute for Human, in fact, he was the director for Institute for Human Resource Development at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria, between 2016 to 2020. And now, like I said earlier, he's a director for the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. He is a resource person for the University of Fisheries and Aquaculture and in organic aquaculture production in the third world countries, FADAMA 1 and 2. He is currently the lead team in strategic, basic, and applied research in the field of aquaculture production, fish health, fish nutrition, and water quality management with key stakeholders in Africa. He has also had very good experience in management, over 20 years experience as far as the lake inland water fisheries and environmental consultancy is concerned. And he's also a member of the Fisheries Association of Nigeria, FISON, a member of the Fisheries Association of Nigeria Editorial Board Committee, Financial Secretary of the same committee. He's also a member of the Francophone and Lusophone Committee of the West African Aquaculture Society, West African Region. He's also a member of Scorecards Committee of the West African Society, Aquaculture Society, West African Region, and an advisory board committee member of the same association. He's also the chairperson for the Memorandum of Understanding of the West African Aquaculture Society, person for Virtual Aquaculture Conference Committee. I believe this is exactly what we are doing, and we are honored, I must say, to have Prof. Adioson Festus Aidowu with us here.
Thank you very much, sir.
Professor,
yes, sir.
Please welcome to the program. I believe that we're going to have a lot this afternoon. To just go ahead, if we can project the presentation of Dr. Regina Ediye, it'll be nice so she can start and then Prof will come second.
Okay.
So should I start projecting? Should I start projecting? Huh? Should I start projecting? No, I'm asking you the question. What's happening now? Shoot. Dr. Regina, your presentation is ready, so I can follow as you present.
Okay.
I hope we can all see
All
the
right.
screen.
I can see it from here.
All right.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon once again. And this afternoon, I would like to present on water quality management, a key to sustainable aquaculture in Africa. And this is a brief outline of my presentation. You can go ahead. Just follow. I think that one of the themes that has been ongoing is that in Africa, we have a great potential for aquaculture, but that potential is largely underdeveloped. Please go ahead, please.
Please do say next slide in case I have not moved yet. Yes.
Yes, sir. And so aquaculture affects a lot of the things that we do, or I should say water quality in aquaculture has a big impact in terms of survival, health of the organism we are culturing, growth of all life stages, particularly at the larval and the juvenile stages, reproduction, as well as transportation. The picture I have here shows one of my colleagues and I going to the field and trying to transport Cresectes nigrodigitatus because we were having very high mortalities. And so by manipulating temperature and oxygen, we were able to have very close to 100% survival. And please, moderator, there's a comment on feedback. Is there any way to deal with that? Or can I share from my end?
I think you can try sharing from your end.
My end, okay. Thank you. Africa, we have
He's completely disconnected. Should we let Prof go? Yeah, he probably is. You can log in and just are you talking with Grace? Because she is off and she is not talking yet.
hello.
Yeah,
We can
hello.
hear you now.
Okay. So should I start again?
Yes, I think it will be better if you restart.
Restart. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so my presentation again is on water quality management, a key to sustainable aquaculture in Africa. And as I previously said, we have a lot of potential in Africa in terms of aquaculture, but that potential is or has not been properly utilized or fully utilized as of now. And in aquaculture, water quality is key. A lot of us during the presentations brought that up, and it affects all aspects of water quality production or aquaculture production, sorry. And so when it comes to aquaculture, there are three things that are key for me: the fish, the food, and the feed, as well as the water in which these organisms are cultured in. If we think about sustainability in terms of aquaculture, then for us, we don't have any way around it. We should be very concerned about doing sustainable management because we are highly dependent on the biosphere. So the picture to the right shows the SDGs organized in terms of biosphere, society, and economy. And so the whole thing that we do is deeply rooted in how well the ecosystem functions for us as aquaculture practitioners or researchers. And so if this sector is going to truly develop, we don't have any other choice but to take a sustainable approach. So if we do water quality management right, then it makes both financial and environmental sense. And so in line with that, then when we are doing management, we need to take a holistic approach. And also when we encounter problems, that's the same approach that we need to take. By that, I mean that sustainability should be key and underlining factor in terms of our decision-making process and our policies. And so when we think about things like systems thinking, if there's a disease on the lake, it doesn't matter if you did everything right. If somebody didn't do the thing right, then you
network
are going to ultimately be affecting these things, or some of the problems that are likely to occur in the future, or some of the growth problems that we would have in the future, and be able to well manage it. What are the values that we have? What are the strategic plans, or do we think strategically when it comes to aquaculture? Using good collaborative skills to develop even our SOPs at the farm and individuals. So I wanted to look at a few examples. This is a study from Diodu 2017. And in this case, he was doing a feed trial. Because the experimental units were not enough, he had to do a split. And so he looked at half of the feeds, and then he followed up with half of it. So there was blocking as far as time was concerned. And the control feed organisms, same water, same systems. But then whilst he was going during the second phase, we had a problem with ammonia. And so at the end of that 8-week study, you see a big difference in weight gain. And this is an average that I am showing here. But if you look at an individual fish, and then you look at your yield total at the end of the day, it makes sense that we manage the environment in which growth is occurring. A well-managed system results in higher profits, and ultimately it leads to low impacts in the environment. Environment matters, and we need, as a sector, to go beyond just measuring physical-chemical parameters. They sometimes do not tell us the full story. Even with that, we are leaving the sediments out. A lot of the papers, a lot of the studies, you see that there's a focus on the water, but there's nothing measured as far as the sediment is concerned. And sediment has a big impact on the physical-chemical parameters that exist within a particular culture system. And for me, most importantly, what I'm surprised at is the lack of the biology of the water. We do a lot of measurements, as I'm saying. It's easy to buy a probe or get a probe and put in water. But if we are not tracking the biology of the water, we miss a lot of important information. We've all been through COVID. COVID presents the same or similar symptoms like malaria. If you go to the hospital and you have high temperature, it is the job of the doctor to find the underlying cause. And in water quality, most of the time, the underlying cause is the biology of the water, the microbiology of the water. That explains a lot of the changes that we see within the system itself. And so when we do studies that do not measure these particular types of things, then it becomes a problem, or we do not get the full picture at the end of the day. So we need to understand the water quality dynamics that exist even before we do any study at all, so that it then guides us in terms of interpretation of the data. If we do the study, very expensive studies sometimes, but we are not doing the right thing, at the end of the day, we'll get data, but the data is not of much use to us. And I write, unfortunately, here because, as Koficho pointed out, in developed countries, they have already learned the lesson of messing up a lot of their big water bodies. And that is why they put in place a lot of regulations in terms of culturing organisms or putting pollutants into lakes that have multiple uses. Unfortunately, 80% of the culturing we are doing is in the lake. And so the people who are dumping nutrients in the waste or waste into the lake are not really paying for the cost right now, but it builds up, and over time, all of us are going to have to pay for that later on. And this is a study from Hargreaves. 2013. And it's nutrient load. And so if you look at the first column, as long as we are pumping nutrients into the system, if we are pumping nutrients into the system, then it has microbial impact on
Order hospital.
So we need to pay attention to oxygen levels at the time of feeding. 3 hours after you have fed your fish, that is when oxygen demand is highest. We need to pay attention to temperature. We need to pay attention to ammonia. Highest ammonia production is about 9 hours after we have fed the fish. All these has an impact in terms of the weight gain that we have at the end of the studies that we do. Another example I wanted to bring up is this studies. And if you look at the graphs, you see 4 different graphs. There's a control, which is a feed on the market. And then we compare it to 3 other feeds. If you look at the feces or fecal matter collected from the tanks that is different diets, the story, so ratios, also consider environmental impact. Then we see that in terms of impact, if I have a system where I have this much fish and all of them are producing this much feces within a short much time? What are the implications for the system? So we need to consider developing our diet, or as we are improving already existing diets. When it comes to effluent, most of the time, aquaculture effluents are higher in contaminants, particularly nutrients, than the original water used in poultry. And there are several techniques that exist in terms of effluent management, particularly when we have a closed system, where you as a farmer or you as a researcher have total control over the system. And so in that case, effluents are better managed. When we are crafting standards, it needs to be highly inclusive so that everybody then knows that this is why we are going in this direction. And so then everybody is supportive of what we then do.
No, oh, you don't unmute
Again,
the
when it
person
comes
to
to
hear.
effluents, aquaculture can also be used as a resource recovery technique in a lot of the industries
Yes,
related
so
to us.
that's
For
what
example, Nestle has waste that is
I
being
tried to
produced. There
tell
are a lot of
you.
nutrients in this waste. Even on the aquaculture farm, you produce a lot of waste, and this can be totally looked at, where we try to maximize removal of these nutrients before final discharge into the system. Another area that is developing in Africa is the use of treated municipal waste. When we have treated municipal waste, that again has a lot of nutrients. And so that can also be used for aquaculture in order to increase our fish production. But there needs to be more research done before this can be well and safely done. Right. When it comes to water quality research, a lot has been done. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are hoping that we get more of the good. When we get more quality or more good quality research, then the information we gather from that enriches our practice. It also promotes the development of the sector. We are not getting a lot from the research that I look at, in terms of when sometimes there's a lot of effort, but there's a poor design. And so, for example, you have a researcher working in freshwater, purely freshwater, but there's over focusing on salinity, for example, whilst maybe he's doing a feed trial and he's not even focusing on ammonia at all, not measuring any form of ammonia within the system. A lot of the work published also doesn't have details. When you say DO, or you are measuring DO and you don't give me the time of the day, that information is not really useful, because every pond in or every external culture system is happy in the afternoon. When the sunshine is maximum, temperature is right,
When I'm
the
talking,
conditions are right for oxygen production. So
I'm trying to.
if you measure in the morning versus you measure in the afternoon, that has a relevance
She
in
keep
terms of the way that we
unmuting
interpret
herself,
the data. We
and I
also
keep
have
muting
challenges
her.
with equipment and training of our
But you
technicians.
see,
But
and so she's
the
saying I'm the
conclusion
one.
of it all is that
Because if I
if
mute
we have
is not
poor
for.
quality control and quality assurance measures,
So she has unmuted herself
then
now.
we have challenges when it comes to publishing our work. And so we invest a lot in the research that we do. But when we take it to very good journals, we are asked for certain data, and then we cannot produce that data. Because we cannot produce that data, then we have wasted effort and resources. And so we tend to go to the predatory journals to publish our work. If we get good data, that can be very useful in terms of effective management of the aquaculture systems. Another area that I think we should look to, and some of the discussions earlier brought that up, is capacity building. A lot of us agree that we are doing aquaculture for profit in most of the cases. If we are doing that and we are going to be able to do that in the long term, then we need to protect the hot system and the external system, the environments that we have. So it is imperative that we become aware of the importance of water quality in all aspects of aquaculture. And we also build the skills and competencies in water quality management. Sometimes I'm very disappointed when I hear people say this is a field study require any, that we don't only develop competencies in our area of research, but we expand. And then we collect all these useful information. Even if we can't analyze them, you know someone who can make good use of that data to help the whole industry. So in terms of my final thoughts, I think that the current state of aquaculture in West Africa is not sustainable. If we continue the way we are right now, there are several things that could happen. One of them is to effluent discharge, because it is not very well managed. We are going to pollute our waters, and this is the same water that we are going to depend on in the future to grow our fish, and there are going to be challenges as far as that is concerned. If we want to move to a sustainable state, or we want to have systems that are sustainable, then we all have to come together and collaborate. And then we need to discuss and find a way of developing these systems. Sometimes when you read the text or research from other areas, yes, it is tilapia, but tilapia grown in a temperate place is very different from tilapia that you are growing here. And so there might be certain unique challenges. That the information is useful, but there are certain things that we need to tweak, we need to refine for our systems so that they work well. And so to get to that state, there's going to be several transition strategies that need to be come up. And so this conference is important, because as we sit down and as we think about the way forward, it is important that we also consider what we can do in terms of water quality management, in terms of effluent management. We need to be concerned about the environment. It directly affects our business. South Africa and Egypt are advanced in terms of aquaculture. We can learn a lot from them. If you look at the document on environmental management in South Africa, it is extremely comprehensive and very useful. This is something that we can learn from them very fast. Good research, targeted training, critical, they are all critical in terms of getting to our preferred state. And we have to work together, researchers and practitioners, to get the questions that are relevant to work on, and also to feed back the results that we get back to the practitioners so that we develop the aquaculture that we have. I want to say thank you. And also to those who allowed me to use their data and their photos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Regina Edziye. It's been a very wonderful practical presentation, I must say, how you bring in all the research experience and current work. No, there are a couple of questions that is already coming up in the chat room. Because we don't want to start the discussion now, we would want to get all the questions popping up in the chat room so that it will be easier for us whenever we are going back, so she can answer them. On this note, we want to once again thank you so much, Dr. Regina Edziye, for such a wonderful presentation, and we will call on you again during the discussion time when the questions start coming. At this juncture, I would want to introduce someone in the person of Sheila. Sheila is with the EPA Ghana, and she's here to also grace the occasion. I believe that she will have some few things to say as far as water quality and the environment is concerned going forward. When the time is due, we'll give her the audience. Now, if Prof is ready, I think we would want to listen to Prof's presentation before we go on with the questions and then discussions. So, Professor Adiosan Festus Idowu, we are ready to hear from you your presentation. Hello, Prof. Hello, Prof. I think Prof is off.
No, he's on.
He's on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, he's speaking now.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Yeah, I hope the organizer you need to share the presentation.
Yes, that will be shared for you.
Yeah, please kindly do that for me. Thank you.
All right.
I hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
And please give us an information to keep skipping slides as you proceed.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, well, let me quickly start by thanking the organizer for finding so worthy to come and have a brief presentation about the water quality and environmental protection in West Africa and aquaculture. So, please, can you please slide?
I need to listen to him to be skipping on.
Please, can you?
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. To a great extent, you know that water quality determines the sources of failure of a fish farming operation. Of course, we are to talk about the water quality. We all know the importance of water quality as far as the fish farming is concerned. Please, next slide, please. Well, in maintaining a good water quality in production point, it is absolutely essential, but failure to do so will result in a poor growth and high feed conversion ratio, or at worst, a total loss of all fish in the pond. Remember that the fish in the pond are living in their own waste. Yes, what am I saying? It's just like we human beings, we have different apartments in our various homes. One, you have a living room, you have toilets, you have other places wherever you want to go. But as far as fish is concerned, does everything inside the water, defecate, eat, move, and so when you consider all this, you know that the quality of the water that is used for the fish production are very, very essential and very important. And most of the farmers didn't take cognizance of this. That is why ponds in their living home, a lot of them have the weight of fish that can be produced in the pond, which is limited by the ability of the pond to produce adequate oxygen. Because of course, when you have a water that is being polluted with a lot of after feeding, of course, we all know what we are talking about. When you feed the unconsumed feed can serve as a substitution for what? For a lot of outbreak of a lot of diseases. During the process of decomposition, a lot of oxygen will be used up and so on and so forth. So, and this water that we are talking about. Yes, sir.
Prof, I think you have logged in with two devices, and that is causing the feedback. So you need to mute one of them.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Hello, sir. Is it okay now?
I think you might need to log out from one device.
Yes, I've done that.
No, to log out completely so that we can. Please continue.
Please. Hello?
Sure, this is better. Please continue.
Hello? Are you with me?
Yes, we are with you, sir.
Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. We are discussing about the water quality. If you are looking at the water quality, definitely we needed to check the physical characteristics of water, the chemical characteristics of water, and the biological characteristics of water. Then let's check the physical characteristics of water. Yeah. The physical characteristics of water we were talking about is we know that water is no back, sir.
Okay.
Back, sir. Hello, sir. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir. I said there's no way we will discuss the water quality. That's the physical, chemical, biological, and environmental impact of the water will not be mentioned. And in doing that, are we looking at quality of water alone? No. The next thing we needed to check is, one, the sources of water, then the quality of water itself that we are talking about. And next slide, please. And the quantity of water. Please, the next slide, yes. That is the source of water, quality and quantity of water. Yes. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. In looking at the water sources, well and spring, groundwater, stream, rivers, and lakes, and municipal. What are we saying? If we are looking at the sources of water, we have to three different sources of water. One, the second one is groundwater, surface water. These are the water that is coming from the sky. Rain, dew, bugs, relative humidity, and so on and so forth. The typical example of our groundwater are the water that flow on top of the ground. The typical example are the spring water, streams, rivers, lakes, and etc. And the underground water, these one are the deep well and the sources of water that are basically meant for aquaculture production. Hello?
Oh, we've lost him. Colin, we've lost him.
Hello?
Yes, you are back.
Hello?
You can continue, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, this is a problem we have in our country. The network is not too stable. That is why I'm not enough. That is why I was using for if you require pumping of water. Hello, am I with you? Hello?
Yes, we're with you. Sure.
Prof, we
Please
can hear
continue.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just trying to discuss about the advantages of well water. I said definitely there are going to be a usual and constant temperature, free from wild fish and insects, no predator and pathogen. But the disadvantage is that whether you like it or not, definitely it will require pumping of that water, of course, and the high dissolved gases like nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and low oxygen. Next slide, please. The advantages of spring water. Of course, it doesn't require any pump. Of course, the water.
Oh, this kind of.
Sorry. Hello, sir. Hello, am I with you?
Yes, you're with us.
Where I am, the network is terribly bad. Just trying to but sorry about that. So I was just trying to talk about the disadvantages of spring water. The next slide, please. Groundwater. The advantages of groundwater. No pumping costs, as I've earlier discussed. Then the disadvantage is that the level may be, I think I've discussed this. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Can we go back? Yeah, thank you. The stream, rivers, and lakes, of course, they have common, of course, they are this water that are flowing. Looking at the advantages, large quantity may be available. Of course, we all know that when we are talking about stream waters and lakes. And the disadvantage is that the temperature varies widely, of course. If you try to check the temperature at the surface of the water, at the mid water, or at the bottom of the water, it varies. Then excessive nutrient may be present, no doubt about that. Unwanted fish and insects will be there. Then those quality is questionable because there are a lot of industrial contaminants from upstream. This slide, please. The nitrogenous compound may be present. You have a lot of dissolved gas that is in the water, like ammonia, ionized, unionized, nitrates, nitrites too. When we look at the diagram beside, you see that when you look at it from the water plant, of course, the algae, nitrates, nitrites. If you look at the flow chart, you will see how the water is being polluted, especially the stream, lakes, and all those. These are the contaminants from various points. That's what we are trying to do up to the ammonia level. What you know the effect of ammonia in the water. Thank you. Next slide, please. ammonia resolve from the breakdown of fish feed, of course, and the waste. I just discussed about this, that this unconsumed feed. During the process of decomposition, I said it earlier, that I said during the process of course, a lot of oxygen will be used up. The fish too will urinate, defecate, and all those things. At the end of the day, it will produce a lot of ammonia in the water, and the feed too. When the feed breaks down too, of course, at the waste, to form of forms of ionizer ammonium. Then unionized, that is ammonia. So unionized ammonia concentration is a function of pH and temperature. Of course, when they use exposure to about 0.14 milligram per liter in the ionized form, it is toxic to the fish, especially to the warm water species, such as catfish. That is one of the resultant effects. Because all this I'm discussing, because I'm still going to think seriously on the effect of all this on fish. And we know that basically in Africa, we venture into both catfish and tilapia. Usually that is what we culture most. Next slide, please.
Prof, excuse me, let me just come in. If Prof, you could speed up a little for us. So,
okay, sir.
Yeah, so we can work within the time.
Okay,
I'll be
sir.
very glad. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Look at under the pH, of course, when we are looking at the, just like I said, I think even without looking at this, when we are looking at the quality of water that I said earlier, I said I categorize them into the physical, chemical, biological, and the what do you call it, the environmental impact assessment. When we look at the physical quality of physical water quality that are very, very essential for aquaculture production, while we'll be talking about the odor, the depth, we'll be talking about the transparency, turbidity, then we'll be talking about the color of the water too. Of course, when you look at all these are the physical parameters that are very, very, when we look at the depth of the water. The depth of the water is very, very essential. Of course, if you are to construct a pond, for instance, I think we will have about 1 to 1.5 meter deep depth of water. Of course, and most of these fishes that we culture most, especially in Nigeria and other parts of West Africa, is more or less a clarias and catfish. And claria is a benthic feeders that's supposed to dwell on at the bottom of the water. So when you have a depth of water that is about 1 to 1.5 meters, of course, it will be okay, because especially during the high insolation, especially during the high, when we have high sunlight rays at the peak of our dry season, of course, it affects the water. We look at the temperature. We all know that temperature is the degree of coldness or hotness of water. Of course, then looking at the transparency too. The transparency of the water is just about the clarity of the water. So we are talking about the clarity of the water. We are talking about how clear the water is, of course, with all these bloom, algal bloom, these suspended particles, and so on and so forth. All these are the physical parameters of water. When we are looking at the chemical parameters of the water that are very, very essential for aquaculture production too, and then we'll be talking about the pH of the water, that is hydrogen ion concentration. We'll be talking about the dissolved oxygen, talking about the phosphates, nitrates, and conductivity. All these are the chemical parameters of water that are very, very essential for aquaculture production. All these, there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages. If you have low dissolved oxygen in the water, the effects will be seriously felt by the fish. And all this will result into the slow growth rate of the fish, of which at the end of the day, it will affect the fish farmer. I'm just talking about, because I have all those things in the slides. So when you look at the pH of the water too, we all know pH is good of 1 to 14, and any water that is being determined of pH that is less than 7 is acidic. When it is greater than 7, definitely we know is that it's alkaline or basic. The one that are very safe for aquaculture production as the one that is being displayed on the screen. Please, can we check the next slide, please? That's try to. Next slide, please. I've talked about the use of oxygen, told you the importance of the resource of oxygen in the water, the importance, high cost of mortality, and so on, which have become. The next slide, please. Next slide, please. Factors that influence the oxygen level in the water, of course. All this, I think I've talked about it too. Factors that influence the fish respiration, size of the fish species itself, the temperature, time after feeding, oxygen concentration, physical condition, and the quality of the food that you offer your fish. Next one. Next slide, please. Source of oxygen in water, of course, diffusion and through photosynthesis. All these, we all know the importance, all these have been captured in the next slide, please. Causes of oxygen depletion, respiration too. Of course, a lot of oxygen is being utilized by the plants and animals in the water. Of course, if a lot of oxygen is being used up inside the water body, of course, this will cause acidification, deficiency of oxygen. Then I agree that when there is all this during the process of decomposition, a lot of oxygen will be used up. We have mentioned about this too. Next slide, please. Next slide. Total dissolved solids too. A lot of suspended particles, of course, in the water that I said it called a lot of turbidity inside the water body. All this and a lot of nutrients too. Of course, all this and non-eating food, feces, all this will pollute water, and in totality, that will make the water so bad for aquaculture venture or production. Next slide, please. Color and appearance of water. Of course, this has a lot of has to do. Initially, when I started this topic, I said fish does all the activities inside water body. And I said that. And I said, of course, feed inside water, defecate, urinate, just everything. As a result of that, you know that the color of that water and the appearance of water will change. Of course, a lot of unconsumed feed, a lot of water, it will make the water, the color of the water definitely to change, and a lot of production of algae too will form, because most of the unconsumed feed will serve as nutrients inside the water body, where of course if there's a rainfall in particular or heavy downpour, it will wash all the organic matter, both plants and animals, dead plants and animals, and empty it into the nearby river. All this, when they form, in particular, all of them will be suspended in the water body. Having done that for 2 or 3 days with the interaction of sunlight and a lot of nutrients inside the water body, the phosphates, the nitrates, when they interplay together, interact together, about 2-3 days after, a lot of phytoplankton production will be produced, and the water will be, of course, most of it will be very, very useful for those vegetarians, for most of the aquatic.
Prof, please, you have less than 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Next slide, please. The temperature, I told you the effect of temperature. I think I've talked about this too. When the warm, of course, just for every 10 degrees centigrade increase, heavy metal is another pollutant that if it enter the water body through mining, agriculture and forest, all this, when during the process of rainy season, in the rainy season, when it enter the water body, definitely to wash all those things and empty into the water body, and a lot of pollutants will be in the water body that will make the water quality so bad for aquaculture venture. The effect of heavy metals, of course, for anthropogenic and industrial effluents, all this will just enter the waste metal, everything will enter into the water body and it will change the whole chemistry of the water. By doing this, definitely it will not be suitable and not be too good for aquaculture venture. Next slide, please. Effect of human, of course, these are a lot of the effect of these heavy metals in human being. When you pick it up, by the time the fish pick it up in the water, in the process of feeding and the process of respiration, of course, this is a resultant effect in the human body. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In aquaculture industry, when we look at aquaculture industry, all these are the effect of what is happening. Increase per capita consumption, increase in global population, wild food population, and so on and so forth. The wild caught fish, because all these happening are interplay in the water body. In doing all this we cause a lot of problem in fish farming that we needed to do to take a serious remedy, so that at the end of the day, all this will not cause a lot of environmental concern inside the water body, and at the end of the day, it will not reduce the fish production. Next slide, please. Aquaculture experience, I've talked about this too, a lot of discharging in the water body, from the sludges to all these sludges to this. I've discussed about this. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is another category of things that I've just talked about. When we look at the extensive system of culture, semi-intensive and intensive system of culture of fish, of course, just so we agree with me that for us to reach a desirable aquaculture venture that will be sustainable, we needed to take a very good measure, especially intensive system of portioning of fish. This one you call close. When you have a recyclability system, you can take care of everything. The water quality parameter, the fish itself, and the fish, you'll be able to look at it very well. But for the semi-intensive, it's just the less you have, just the attention will not be as high as that of intensive. And the extensive one is when you leave it open, then you just go to the open water body like ocean, rivers, and the attention will be very, very low. Next one. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are the typical example of the water body that we've been discussing about. The next slide, please. The management strategies. Of course, these are the real intervention only for research. Of course, a lot of things, a lot of research needed to be done on the feed conversion ratio, of course, and a lot of, of course, people needed to be educated. Of course, for instance, our fish farmer, they need a lot of education on this, how to caution fish, how to process it, a lot of, even at the end of the day, some of these fish, maybe because of the glut, most of the people or the buyer, they don't even buy it. All these measures, they are very, very important in management strategies of fish. If we take a proper measure of all these aforementioned, definitely the fish will be sustainable. Next slide, please. Before I thank everybody, just permit me to acknowledge some people. I want to acknowledge the Chamber of Aquaculture in Ghana and your team for wonderful job you have done. I want to congratulate Mr. Larry Badmos, the Regional Director, for the initiative, and your team too in Nigeria. Of course, a huge lot of them, I will just permit me to mention, but few people. Yeah, I want to acknowledge Dr. Dikin Ariola, Dr. Oche, Mrs. Fumilola, Mr. Kodri, Mr. Emmanuel, and others. I want to appreciate all of them, all the members of LOC and ROC for the wonderful job they have done to make the success of this conference. Chamber of Aquaculture in Ghana, we want to thank you. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Prof. Adioson, for your insightful presentation. We are almost about running up, but then we have about 15 minutes tops to actually discuss. Would Sheila want to say something before the discussion? If she's here, you can give her about a minute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
you
hear
me,
you.
Shadrach?
Yes, I'm here. We can hear you.
Good afternoon to everybody.
Good
And
afternoon.
I'm very pleased to have a privilege to join this very interesting session or conference. And I must say that speaking as a regulatory person, we believe that this conference couldn't have come at a better time because it's obvious now the whole world is seeing what happens when we interfere with just one element of the natural balance in nature. Now we all have seen it with our eyes and our whole lives have been turned upside down. So quickly, having said that, let me go on as well to acknowledge the two presenters. I think they did a lot of justice to issues concerning water quality when we are looking at the environment. And I just wanted to add on the fact that when we talk water quality also, because there are also some hosts of waterborne diseases that are spread through water, that also is a key issue that comes to mind because it's directly linked to human health. So it really is an issue. Using the case of Ghana, I think that, as Regina already mentioned, most people tend to go for cage culture on the lake. So we have more, the majority doing cage culture rather than the pond culture. But I guess the effects is similar, is the same. So I just would like to emphasize the fact that what we have observed is that most of the time, the larger industry partners, they tend to comply with standards in terms of keeping the water quality measurements, monitoring what is going on. It has already been mentioned that there isn't much data. A lot of the data will have to come from people in the industry because there's always a baseline before they start on the lake. But as to what is happening, I think it's important for industry partners to realize that this is about their business, their investment, and that when they monitor, they are monitoring the data is for their own good. And so we should all come into partnership and make sure we meet our requirements. I would like to make reference also that we do have standards for environmental protection for effluent discharge, which are available at the Standards Authority and in the EPA, which specify levels for all the parameters so that it guides production by the fish farmers, especially those who have permits where they've been told they've been given a frequency to monitor each parameter from pH to fecal coliform to turbidity to suspended solids. So I'd like to encourage our partners in the industry to try to abide by some of these because they're actually geared towards enhancing their own work. We are working as regulators just to be sure that we all can have sustainable development because we see aquaculture as a means to an end and we want to make sure that it doesn't have impacts on the environment so that posterity cannot practice aquaculture. I think I must stop here so other questions can be taken. But I'd like to thank the Chamber of Aquaculture for inviting us to participate in this, and we think more of these we would like to see in the future. Thank you very much.
Right, Sheila, Sean, thank you so much for your addition. I think it really highlighted something I've already put down about the issue of partnership, where we need to all, as industry players or partners, come together and then collaborate. Where research ends, where production ends, and all those things, we need to really have that synergy going forward. And I'm very happy that both speakers were able to speak to this, that we really need to have that collaboration going forward. The right kind of research must be done. Tailor-made research has to be done so that farmers can benefit. Yes. So before I read some of the questions that I've dropped in from on the chat, I have this very question from what Prof. Adioson said with respect to management strategies, he spoke about one very critical issue that has to do with funding for research. Now, I've already said that we want to be able to help these farmers. It seems to me that farmers are not really getting, the worth of research in their practices. I don't know, but that's what I think. Because as far as water management or quality management and environment is concerned, it seems that most of these farmers are still, not really working as expected. What can we do? What can we do now to be able to ensure that research, one, is tailor-made to actually solve existing problems? And then two, how can we send that research output to these farmers and then bring them on board? I want us to discuss this as part of the questions that has come up. I want to also read. I don't know if Dr. Regina could help us with this. How do we bring research to the point where it's beneficial to solving existing problems in the aquaculture sector as far as the environment is concerned?
I think the key to this is extension. We don't have a strong extension. For me, I do research, but my teaching load is so high that I can't do very effective extension, even though I try to do that as much as possible. We've been under Ministry of Agric for so long that we haven't really trained some of our extension agents in this area very well, although we are no longer part of them. And so we need to take this serious. We need to make the research we are doing count. Otherwise, if the industry doesn't exist, we don't exist at all. I also think that when people are doing country assessments of needs, I don't know which people do it, but I'm always surprised that year after year, environmental water quality issues don't pop up. So I ask myself, are they asking the right people to do these kinds of assessments? Because our government is not funding, and if the funding agencies too, nobody flags that as an area of need, then there will be no money to do the research that we most need.
Right. I think this is very important. As far as, we need to be known. We need to actually highlight what we do and the need for some of these studies. And like you said, extension. We know we have the Fisheries, Commission that actually has that extension aspect. I don't know how this environmental impact assessment and all those that goes with it, like EPA, Sheila said, how are we reaching to these farmers? It seems some of them are still doing their own things, So I believe that from this, discussions, we need to have that, I'm writing it down, we need to really find a way of reaching out to these farmers, bringing them on board so that we can all work hand in hand to make it work for all of us, because the environment is very important to everyone. If we don't get the right kind of conditions in the environment and we end up jeopardizing, lives and all, I believe that then we are not going anywhere. So thank you very much, Dr. Regina, on this.
Hello, sir.
You want to say anything?
Yes, I want to say something concerning that, sir.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. For that question, there are two ways to that question, sir. For instance, in our own university here in Nigeria, our own University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, we have a tripodal mandate: lecture, research, and extension. We have some aspects in our university that what they normally do is extension services and some research, of course, the lecturer. But what we normally do is that whatever we do in our university, we, through our extension agents, we diffuse those information to farmers. But the problem that we have in Nigeria now is, one, those farmers, they don't even come to tell us what are their problems, even though our extension agents, they normally go to them, what are the likely problems you people have, and how do we get it solved? Because how it's supposed to be is that the farmer will come to via the extension officers to tell them the problem, and we research on it. If peradventure there is maybe a crack in the skull of a fish, for instance, then they bring it back to us through our extension agents, and we research on it. What are those likely to cause those things? That is one. Then in part of this, in Africa generally, well, let me limit now to Nigeria. Our farmers, they have not developed to an extent that they take they get money and say, please go and research on this. What are the likely things? For instance, what are those effects of using the soil meal, for instance, in feed? They were not developed to that extent, especially in Nigeria, for a farmer to now come up and say, maybe 2 or 3 of them, they come together and say, take this money, go and research on this, or take this money and like other part of the country. If we maybe the ways and manner we discuss or we relate with our farmer, maybe we are not getting to that extent. I think it's part of what we needed to discuss seriously, so that our farmers, they will know that one, it is very, very essential and expedient for them to get it right first, and ask the researcher to research on a particular problem that may be confronting them. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Prof. This is well appreciated. Well appreciated. I think we are now getting to understand that there's actually a missing link. The missing link has to do with extension. No matter how useful your research may be, on paper, it doesn't, translate into good results if it doesn't go to the farmer. So I think it's something the Chamber of Aquaculture and World Aquaculture Society, after this, I will prepare something small. We will take it up and then see how we can involve, these primary stakeholders. These are the farmers. They need to benefit from the research that we are doing. All these things we are talking about with water quality parameters and all. The question I'm asking myself is, as a lay farmer, does he really understand all these things? Does he really care? We need to make them care. Then we can make a headway. Thank you very much. There were some few questions that came up. I would want to read them quickly. We have just about 2-3 minutes, then we are done. The first one came from William. William said, please, could you tell your audience a bit more on the peri-urban wastewater research facility you have in Kumasi and what KNUST has been doing there over the years? Also, secondly, on these same systems, have you, your department looked at the commercial potential for cultivating edible aquatic plants in such systems? In South Asia, there is a huge business and more profitable production per hectare per annum compared to any fish species grown out in the wastewater. So I think that was a direct question for Dr. Regina Edziye. If she could just answer that for us. Yes,
I'll try and do justice in 1 minute. Yes, William, Prof. Agbo and Dr. Amwa Imi, they started that research and it's still ongoing in phases. They've cultured catfish in the system and they grow very well. We've looked at safety issues also along the way. We've looked at consumer as a willingness to accept that particular way of growing the catfish. So some of the work has been published, so it's out there. And because we don't have time, I'll just stop here so you can take another question.
Thank you very much. I think since you already seem to know him, I think he can get to you and then get more information on this. There's another one from Karen. Karen said, we see big water quality problems at farms in Ghana that have all their cages side by side so that the middle of the cages have very poor water quality. Yes, they share walkways, but what is easiest for the operator is really good for the fish. Or I think that was just a comment she was passing through. There was one question from Koficho. I think it was a carry-on from one of the sessions. In terms of environmental protection, the pollution of major river bodies in Ghana due to illegal gold mining activities pose a major problem to aquatic life. I mentioned in the previous session, like I said, the danger posed to the Volta Lake by nutrition pollution by aquatic practitioners in addition to the already high level of aquatic. So the question is, another major concern he's talking about is the effect of escapees from farms into the wild, knowing that there is hardly any effective regulation of what farmers do in the attempt to improve the growth rate of the stock. Escapees can destroy the biodiversity, yes, in the lake. Any thoughts about how this looming problem can be addressed for the benefit of our fisherfolk? Any ideas?
Yes, we need to do serious discussions. We are not managing our water bodies well. what values do we have? Are we willing to destroy the water bodies that we have? We did it in Bosonche, and now we have introduced species. But the people who are doing the regulation, the people who are giving people permission to do it, I think as a sector, we need to come down and look at the cost of doing that, the cost of the loss of biodiversity, the cost of the pollution that we are having, and which water bodies do we want to dedicate fully to aquaculture? Which ones do we want other uses to be the most prominent ones? We don't have time again, so I can't go into that. But there needs to be a discussion. We need to really think about what we want as a country. Getting immediate fulfillment comes at a cost. As I said earlier, the developed countries, they have learned very painful lessons over the past. And because of that, the regulations are in place, not because they are being strict, but because their water bodies have been polluted. That's why they went for no phosphate soap, because they have gotten to a point where they can actually see bubbles on the water bodies that they have. So we need to come together and then fashion something that works for us as the people.
Right. Thank you very much. I don't know if the chamber can give us just about 5 minutes to run up with this, because I have some few people. Unfortunately, it's difficult.
Exactly, because the next session is still using this same platform.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we need to vacate it. And the online presence also are pretty much on time. Exactly.
Yes.
So unfortunately, we have to run
that's fine. That's fine. But I think generally it's been a very good discussions we've had. And I want to thank the Chamber of Aquaculture Ghana and the West African Aquaculture Society and whoever has actually joined in now so in fact it's been an honor listening to the two presenters. Very in-depth discussions, very in-depth knowledge that they've shared, and I want to thank you all for also making inputs. I believe that since we already know each other, we could always contact each other through the chamber, and we can ask other relevant questions that have not been answered here going forward. So on that note, since our time is up, I want to thank you very much for tuning in and being part of this wonderful session. Thank you, and do have a very fruitful rest of the day and the weekend. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Okay, bye. So please, the next session will begin right now because the time is due, and it's on aquafeed development in West Africa.